You might remember that President Trump is not in court today on this Wednesday. Now, there will be, of course, there could be orders coming out from the court today, and many are wondering whether this is the day we are going to see orders from Judge Merchan on the gag order. Now, the judge was very tough on the Trump attorneys. I said this on Newsmax this morning. I think, listen, this judge, he's no fan. He's put out a very restrictive gag order. We saw this in Georgia as well, where a gag order was put on even potential witnesses. I mean, like, how do you enforce a gag order on potential witnesses? I mean, how do you talk if you're a defendant, if you can be violating the law and either be fined $1,000 per time you talk for people who are potentially going to be called as witnesses? But this one is so broad that it involves even the judge's daughter, who, by the way, is not a defendant, who is not a witness, but is someone that may be interested to note is a Democrat fundraiser for Adam Schiff. And so, people might want to know those kind of things as this judge is deciding not just the bigger picture about whether or not President Trump in the bigger case involving Alvin Bragg and the business decisions, and of course, but also issues like the gag order, which could amount to a $10,000 a day fine and jail time.
I have a question for you from a legal point of view. What is the sort of the restrictions of a gag order, and why is it? When is it important? When does it actually work? Yeah,
people who are actually witnesses and jurors who feel like you're going to be threatening them, so that you're going to put their life in jeopardy, so that they may lie or not tell the truth because they're scared of the consequences. So you're not allowed to, witness tamper. It's kind of like witness tamper.
Yeah, so there's times where it's needed.
Sure. But the problem with President Trump in these cases, and when you have 4 of them going on all around the country, and some are state court, some are city court, and some are federal court, is it's way too broad. And so it involves even the judge's daughter.
Right.
Now, the judge himself, you can be as nasty about as you want. You're allowed to be nasty about the judge. And I get that, again, there's a line even with, like, the judge's daughter.
Sure.
Likely. But I don't think pointing out the facts that she's a Democrat fundraiser.
Yeah.
So that when if her dad was to hold, for instance, Donald Trump guilty of violating the gag order, she could use that as an email to raise money for candidates she works for who are Democrats that want to, twice tried to impeach President Trump, and this time want to defeat President Trump in the ballot.
Let's go ahead and take some phone calls. Let's go first to Lisa, who's calling in Shreveport, Louisiana, on line 4. Lisa, you're on the air.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. Okay, this is probably the silliest question ever, but I'm just going to ask it because a lot of people are probably wondering this. How did it get so far with President Trump and these illegal charges, illegal allegations, illegal false witnesses, everything? It just doesn't make any sense. He's innocent in everything. We all know that. How did it get so far? He could actually go to jail. Does every single case going to have to reach the U.S. Supreme Court before you see any kind of legality? I mean, these are legitimate lawyers that are defending him, and I'm starting to think that this isn't even a legitimate judge. These aren't even a legitimate prosecution. I just don't understand how it went this far.
Yeah, I think, Lisa, I think a lot of people have had, and thank you for calling. You're on hold 40 minutes. I appreciate that, by the way. I think a lot of people have those thoughts that they almost are becoming numb to how many cases there are and all the charges that are come against him. But they are real, and I want to make sure that people understand they are real. These are real courts. These are real judges. They are actually, potentially you're discussing anything from incredible fines to jail time. It's not like, kind of we said, this is not just some show investigation on charges. This is really happening right now in our country. And whether you agree with President Trump or you don't, is really beside the point, because the statements that have been made and these cases that have happened just feel so soaked in political misconduct, if you will, in terms of the way that we're treating our political opponents. It doesn't feel like they are actually rooted in the law. Now, you could say what you want about certain judges or however it's being run, but you also have the case of presidential immunity that's happening at the same time at the Supreme Court. And this, look, it's not unlike we talked about impeachment, where when you lower the bar for impeachment, now everyone can be impeached. Do I think that Joe Biden should be impeached? I'm not really sure in the traditional sense of everything until this last, let's say decade. No, probably not. However, the rules changed 4 years ago. And now the bar is lowered for what impeachment means. The bar is lowered for all of these things. And that's what's going to happen in the President Trump situation, which is it's not going to be unlike a lot of countries, specifically in the third world, or even countries that in Europe and so forth, where every political leader ends in disgrace. Every political leader ends being thrown out, and a lot of them end up in prison. If we're not careful with how it happens in America. Let's go to Terry, who's calling, been on hold for a very long time. Terry, I really appreciate you holding. You're on the air.
Hi, thank you for taking my call. I am calling to ask you folks if there's anything President Trump can do once he's back in office, and I'm not even letting myself think otherwise, if he can generate new laws or something to protect people from this kind of legal warfare.
Well, there is obviously the case right now of presidential immunity that is at the Supreme Court. Is it tomorrow, right? Will, you hear me? It's tomorrow, I believe. Tomorrow is when that case is. And so those are the kind of things. You get to a Supreme Court level, and hopefully you have a fair Supreme Court that will judge that fairly. And if you do, then maybe that's a level of protection for not only him, but for future presidents going forward. Now, how that affects you, that's a different story. Because as he said, they go after him, they go after you. It is a different time. Are there things, and you said you hope that you're not even getting to the idea of what if he doesn't go back in office. I think we need to understand is that it was going to be this coming November an uphill battle for either Joe Biden or for President Trump. They are both, sadly, we're at the point where we're not even sure there are going to be presidential debates because the country is just split. So it's more who shows up that day. Who's that 3%? Who is that 4% that isn't sure who they're going to vote for? Maybe I'm wrong. But it feels like historically, man, if you got 56% of the vote, you just had a landslide. These are not the Reagan years. These are not the years where you could have every state light up red except for one. That's certainly not going to happen this time around. So make sure you're always staying vigilant of what's happening and to prayerfully decide who you're going to vote for, obviously. But that is something you need to keep aware of. And don't just go in blindly thinking, oh, well, my guy's going to win. It's not really how it works. And I think we need to be aware. And we are towards the end now of our Life and Liberty Drive, and we want you to join us. We are in the final days. Just 6 days are left, and we are still short of our goal, and we are battling right now a lot of significant cases and a lot of significant work at the ACLJ.
Okay, we will talk about, we come back from the next break, an amicus brief in the appeal of Fani Willis's corrupt prosecution of President Trump, and the Georgia Court of Appeals could take the case any day. So your gifts will be doubled during this Life and Liberty Drives, but the opportunity, Logan, it ends in just 6 days.
Yeah, 6 days to have your donation matched right now, so I encourage you to do that. Go to aclj.org, and while you're there, you can become an ACLJ champion. Over 21,000 of you have decided to fight with us, and we could use you as well. That means you're going to join us each and every month on a recurring basis, a recurring tax-deductible donor. We would appreciate that. Go to aclj.org to donate now.